Hello everyone. Today I am going to show you how to fill DS-160 for your US visa. This is going to be a very important video because if you make mistake in your DS-160, this will increase the likelihood of visa refusal and we don't want to do that. That is why I decided that I'm going to make a video on how to correctly fill DS-160. I'm making this video from the perspective of a student. First thing that I want you to do is that I want you to type DS-160 on Google and click on this link. Once here, it will ask you to select the location from where you are applying. So I am applying from, let us say, India. So I'll be selecting India, Kolkata. You should select accordingly. Then you need to type in the code that you see it over here. And finally, we can start the application. Read this notice, agree to it, scroll down. And now this is a security question asked to you. Please remember this question because what happens is that it gets logged out sometimes. And in that case, if you try to log back in, you will need to answer the security question. So I will be selecting this question. Continue. So this is your personal information section. Over here, you need to type your surname. And over here, you need to type your given name. Your surname is basically your family name. I'm not giving my own details. We'll create a dummy character. Let's call him Spider-Man. So one important thing that I want you to note over here is that if you don't have a surname in your passport and if you only have one name in your passport, remember surname is mandatory. You cannot leave it blank. In that case, even if you have one name in your passport and that is your given name, you still need to type that as your surname, and in your given name section you can type FNU, which means first name unavailable. For more details, you can read this, but for the rest of us who have our surname, who have our given name, we can type in just like this. So if you have a name in native alphabet, then you can type it over here. Most of us will not be having it. Now this question is asking us about our previous name. So if we have changed our name, if we have any document with a different name, then we can select yes, and then in that case we will have to give our previous name. Remember that the previous name is not your pet name that people call you with. It is a legal name if you have had in past. For example, some women may have a different name in past and then they get married and then they change their name. So they need to give their previous name over here. So I will be selecting no. This question is asking about telecode. For most of us, this will not be the case, but if it is applicable to you, select yes. I am a male. I am single. You should select accordingly. Now this is asking about date and place of birth. Remember that you can find this information in your passport and put it from there. So let us say my date of birth is 1st Jan 1994 and I was born in Kolkata. So now we have two options. Once we fill this information, save it or click on next. So if you click on next, the information doesn't get saved for this one. So in case you get logged out, you will have your data not saved. So it is important that we save it before we moving on to the next step. So save, continue application. Now that we have saved it, we can successfully go to next step. So these are again additional questions on personal information asking you about your nationality. I'm Indian, I'm selecting India. This is about dual nationality, which means that if you hold two citizenship for two countries, I don't, I'm selecting no. If you do, select accordingly. This is asking about do you have a PR of a country other than your home country, other than your country of origin. So if you hold Canadian PR and you are Indian citizen, then you should select yes. Else, like for most of us, we don't have a PR in a different country from our origin, so we'll be selecting no. So these three questions, for most of us, this will not be applicable. But remember that SSN, if you have had a US visa of any category previously, and if you were assigned SSN, and if you are filling it again after many years, type your SSN over here And if you were a taxpayer in US, you can type your taxpayer ID. For most of us, this will not be applicable. And for Indians, remember national identification number. We can type in our Aadhaar, that is okay, because when I was filling my application, I typed Aadhaar and there was no issue with that. But even if you select does not apply, that is totally okay. So we can save it, continue application. Next. Now this section is asking you about your travel information. So you need to mention the type of visa category that you are applying for. So I'm making this video particularly for students. So I will be selecting academic or language student F visa category. But say if you are a business visitor, if you are a tourist, you should select this one. So I will be selecting F category. This will be for F1 visa. So this question is asking you about your specific travel plans. So most of us select no over here because it is perfectly alright to have no travel plans. You need to have a tentative plan in mind, and that is okay. So but still, even if you select no, they will ask you tentative date of your arrival. So you can be like few days off from this date, it is okay, it's not an issue. But you can, for this date of arrival, you can look at your I-20 and you can see the start date of your program, and you can type 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to your start date over here. So I will be typing 1st August. See, now this question is asking you about your length of stay in US, because this is a non-immigrant visa, which means that you are supposed to return back to your country upon the completion of your program. So that is why I will be selecting 2 years. So you should select according to the duration of your program. Again, refer your I-20. This is about address where you will be staying in US. So if you have finalized your accommodation, you can type it over here. If not, you have your I-20, look at your school address and type it over here. I will be typing a dummy address over here. Now this question, who is paying for your trip? You have a lot of options. If you are financing it yourself, select self. If your parents are sponsoring you, you can select other person. Similarly, if your employer is the one who is sponsoring you, this is the one for you. I will be selecting self. Save it. Continue application. Now I'll click on next. So now this question is asking you if any person is traveling with you. So if a friend is traveling with you, if a colleague is traveling with you, it is perfectly alright to say no. It is mentioned over here. But if your family is traveling with you, then you should select yes. So I will be selecting no. Save. Continue application. And next. Now these questions are asking you about your previous US travel information. So if you have been previously to US, select yes. If not, no. If you have ever been issued a US visa, select yes. If not, no. And if you have ever been refused a US visa, select yes over here, else no. So it is perfectly alright to have a visa refusal, but you should have a legit explanation for that. But if you have not had any previous visa refusal, you should select no. And this is about if anyone has ever filed an immigration petition for you. For most of us, I believe it will be no. Save it. Continue application. Next section. So this section is about your address and your phone information. So there are two address that you need to mention over here. First is your home address and second is your mailing address. You can take your home address as your permanent address and type in your permanent address over here, which will be also mentioned on your passport. Your mailing address you could type in as the address that you are currently residing at and where you want to receive any documents if they send. So, and for most of us, it could be that our home and mailing address are same, but if it is different for you, you should select no over here and then you need to type your mailing address. If you select yes, whatever is your home address will be treated as your mailing address. So let's type our home address over here. And is your mailing address same as your home address? For me it is yes. If it is different for you, select no and then type in that address. Now we need to mention our phone number and our email address. So this is your primary phone number that you are using. If you have a secondary phone number, you can provide it over here. If not, you can click on does not apply. Similarly, if it is applicable to you, if you have work phone numbers, select type in that number, else does not apply. Now this question is about, have you previously used any phone number in the last 5 years which is not this number that we have just mentioned over here. So I have not, so I'm selecting no. If you have, select yes and give in that information. Now this question is about your email address. Give your primary email address over here. I will be giving this email address. You should obviously give your own email address. Again, similar kind of question. If you have in last 5 years used an email address that is not this one, select yes and give it, else no. So this question is about your social media presence. If you are present on social media in last 5 years and if you have been active on that platform, you need to provide it over here. It could be YouTube, it could be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, anything. So this is the list of the social media accounts that if you have on it, you need to mention it over here. So I will be giving my YouTube information. You should give any account that you are active on. Now this question is asking you about again your other website or applications that you have used, and it is not mentioned over here. If you didn't mention it over here and if there is anything else that you are using, select yes and type in there. It will give you the option. See, and if not, you can select no. Save it just so that we don't want our data to lost, because it will log you out at some point. Next. So this is your passport details. So for most of us it will be regular. Now this is your passport number. It will be mentioned on your passport. You can provide it from there. Passport book number. This is not applicable for Indians, but if it is applicable to you, you can provide it. You can read these for more details. So my passport is from India, so I have mentioned it India over here. And now these are the information that will be mentioned on your passport. So city will be mentioned on your passport. State will be mentioned on your passport. And now this next question is about issuance date and expiration date. This will again be mentioned on your passport. Anything that you mention on this form, you need to mention it correctly, because the visa officer will review this form, and it is one factor in deciding whether he should give you your visa or not. This is your first impression that you are going to make on the visa officer, and if anything is negative, if anything affects him negatively, if any information he finds out is not correct, chances are he's going to refuse your visa. So if your passport has been stolen, mention it yes. If your visa has been ever been refused, mention it yes and then give the reason. If you had neither your passport stolen or lost, you can select no and save it. Continue application. Next, US contact. So this section is your US point of contact information. So you need to provide the name of the person that you know in US. It could be anyone that you know, or it could be the school counselor. You can check your I-20 for that. So this will be surname and this will be given name. For you as a student, you can provide your school name over here. And what relationship do you have with them? They are your school officials. Therefore, you will select school officials. Now this section you need to provide phone number and address of the school. So again, check your I-20 for that. Now I have provided the address detail. I will provide the phone number and email address. Save it. Continue application. Next. Now this section is your family details. They will ask information about your father, about your mother, and about your relatives. So you should have your father full name and date of birth ready, as well as your mother full name and date of birth. I'm just typing a dummy name. Date of birth. Is your father in the US? For me, no. So I'm selecting no. If your father is in US, you can select yes. Similarly, we need to provide our mother details over here. Date of birth. And is your mother in US? No. So now this question is about your immediate relatives. Immediate relatives not including your parents means if you are a student and if you are not married, it means your siblings. If you have your siblings in USA, you should select yes. If you don't have any siblings, select no. Now this question, do you have any other relative in USA? So if you have your close family members living there, select yes. But for distant relatives, it is not important that you provide them information, because there are a lot of questions they ask relating to your family and your relatives, so if they are living in USA or not, and it could be a concern for them, because if you have a lot of family members living in USA, this tells them that they might petition for you for green card. So again, if you have close family members living there, select yes. If you have a very far off distant relative living there, it is okay to select no. Save, continue application, next. So get your work details ready, get your school details ready over here, because we are going to fill that. So if you are a student and if you are not a working professional, your occupation is a student. But if you are a working professional, you should look into these and according to your own profession you select. And if you don't find your profession over here, you can select other. Your present employer school name, you can provide your school name over here. Provide your school address over here. So I have provided my address, I have provided the phone number and the start date of my school or college. And now over here, monthly income, it is not required for you because you are still a student. If you are a working professional and if you had selected other as your primary occupation or anything else, you can type your monthly income over here. For you, it does not apply. Now this section is very important, at least for those who are working professional, but for you as a student, you can just type that I'm studying and you can type your course. If you are studying MBA, if you are studying BCom, you can type I'm studying BCom or anything like that. So this should be your duties. Save it. Now this section is about your previous employment and previous education history. So if you were previously employed, select yes. In that case, you will have to give details of your employment. If you have previously worked 2 jobs, 1 job, you will mention it over here and then you will add another and mention another job. But for those of you who were not previously employed, select no. And over here, it is about educational institution details at a secondary level or above. Secondary level or above depends on countries. So for US perspective, anything that is below 10, below class 10, that is your primary level, and anything above class 10, that is your secondary level. So you can provide your class 10, 12 and graduation details over here. I've seen people providing just graduation details, at least for visitor visa, and it has not been an issue. But since you're applying for student visa, I would recommend you provide your all the details. So yes, and then mention your institute name, address, and select the country, course of study. If you have studied BCom, mention that, and from when you started the study and from when you attended that institute, mention that as well. So I have filled the detail, I have filled the education institute name, I have filled the address, I have filled the course of study as well as the date I attended that organization. So now I'll save it so that my data does not get lost because it will frequently throw you out. Continue application. Next. Now over here you need to mention that if you belong to a clan or a tribe. We don't. If you do, please mention yes over here. Now provide a list of languages you speak. So any language that you speak, you should mention it over here. I speak English, Hindi and Urdu. I will be mentioning those. So yes. Now these questions are regarding your previous travel. So if you have traveled to any country in last 5 years, you need to select yes and you need to mention it over here. If not, you can select no. So even if you went to any country, say UK or UAE, you need to select yes and mention it over there. So if you have belonged to or contributed to any of these professional, social or charitable organizations, select yes, else no. If you have any specialized skills or training in firearms, explosive, select yes, else no. So these questions will be different individual to individual. So if it is applicable to you, select yes, else you can select no. Served in military, no. Part of paramilitary group, vigilante unit, no. Save. Continue application. Next. So again, now we are starting with the list of questions that will be on security and background. So it will be no for most of us, but again, if it is applicable to you, you should honestly answer these questions. So first one is regarding communicable disease. They have listed the name of the disease. If you have any of these disease, select yes, else no. Mental or physical disorder, if you have it that can pose threat, select yes, if not, no. And if you have ever been a drug abuser or addict, select yes, else no. So now again part 2 of security and background related questions. If you have ever been arrested or convicted, select yes, else no. Now the next question is relating to controlled substance. If you have violated, yes, else no. Okay, next question is regarding if you are coming to US to engage in prostitution or any unlawful commercialized vice, yes, if not, no. Next question is regarding money laundering. Most probably it will be no for you as well. Next question is regarding human trafficking offense, no again. Again, next question is regarding if you have aided, abetted, assisted or colluded in human trafficking, no. And this question is regarding if you are a spouse, son, daughter of an individual who was part of human trafficking. No. Save it. Continue application. Next. Now these questions are again part of security and background question. So first one is regarding sabotage, export control violation. No. Next one is related to terrorist activities. No. Provide financial assistance to terrorist organization. No. Member or representative. No. A spouse or daughter of individual who engaged in terrorist activity, again no. Participated in genocide, no. Participated in torture, no. Committed extrajudicial killings, no. Recruitment of child soldiers, no. While serving as government official, violated religious freedom, no. Enforcement of population control, no. Transplantation of human organs, no. Save it. Continue application. Next set of security and background related questions. So this one is about, have you ever tried to obtain visa by any fraud or willful misrepresentation? No. So this is very important. For example, if you are even filling your DS-160 incorrectly, and if you have that intention to mislead visa officers, then that is misrepresentation. That is, you are being fraudulent. So you need to keep in mind that whatever information you are providing in DS-160, make sure to review it correctly and don't try to mislead the visa officer. So have you ever been removed or deported? No. Save it. Continue application. Next. Another security and background part 5 questions. So ever withheld custody of US citizen child? No. Voted in US in violation of law? No. Renounced US citizenship for the purpose of avoiding taxation? No. Save it. Continue application. Next. Now this section is specifically for students, so you need to provide additional point of contact information, in this case from your home country. So if you are from India, you need to provide contact of information from India. However, it is to be noted that you cannot provide contact information of your immediate family members or other relatives. So what you can do is that you can provide contact information of trusted individuals or friends. So you need to provide two contact information of two trusted individuals over here. In most cases, they will not call them, but provide information of anyone you trust. So I have filled the details of one individual. I will need to give his telephone number and his email address as well. So now the first person information is done. Now I need to provide the information of the second individual. Let's say this is his name, this is his address, this is his city, his state, his postal code. He is also Indian. And you need to provide his telephone number and his email address. Save it. Now you can click next. Now this is also a student specific information, SEVIS information. So you can find your SEVIS ID in your I-20. You can find your school information there. You can find your course of study and address as well. So let us put SEVIS ID over here. Name of school, course of study, MBA, address. Obviously you should put your own school address over here. Zip code. Save it. Continue application. Next, review. We are done with our application. This is the review stage, and again I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you correctly fill it. So review it carefully. Maybe do it twice. Next, keep going. So now over here, the next step is that you sign and submit the application. So click and sign and submit. The first question that they will ask you is that, did anyone assist you in filing this application? If you're watching my video and if you have filled it on your own, you can select no. Provide your passport information over here. Enter the code. Finally, sign and submit application. So once you click confirmation, you will not be able to go back and edit anything. So this is your confirmation page, and you need to print this confirmation page. You need to email it to your confirmation. You can do that as well. And you need to take this to the consulate office when you go for your biometrics and interview. So this is all. This is how you correctly fill it. And I'm sure after watching this video, you will be able to correctly fill it. And I will also be making videos on your F1 visa interview. So subscribe my channel for that. That's going to be pretty useful for you. And I hope you liked my content. Thank you so much.